Assalamualaikum and good morning to my beloved lecturer and friends. My name is Nur Ain Natasha binti Muhammad Abidin from Group 7 will present about Piaget's theory of cognitive developments. As you guys can see on the first slides, there is the introductions of Piaget's theory of cognitive. The one who came up with this theory was John Piaget. John Piaget was one of the most influential researchers in the area of developmental psychology during the 20th centuries. He was mainly interested in the biological influence on how we come to know. He believed that what distinguishes human beings from other animals is our ability to do abstract symbolic reasoning. Piaget became interested in how children think. There are two major aspects to Piaget's theory. First, the process of coming to know. Second, the stage we move through as we gradually acquire this ability. The goal of the theory is to explain the mechanisms and processes by which the infant and then the child develops into an individual who can reason and think using hypotheses. Children construct an understanding of the world around them, then experience the discrepancies between what they already know and what they discover in their environments. Piaget thinks there are different thinking between younger and older children. The difference can be seen on the way they answering the question that been asked to them. The older children will answer the questions more logical since they have more experience, while the younger answer the question with their thought. Next is the process of cognitive development. There are two processes of cognitive development that used by the individual in its attempt to adapt, which is assimilations and accommodations. Assimilation and accommodations. Assimilation is the process of using or transforming the environment so that it can be placed in existing cognitive structures. Next, accommodations is the process of changing cognitive structure in order to accept something from the environment. Both processes are used simultaneously and alternately throughout life. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. Hello, my name is Sayyira binti Amir. Today I am going to present you about components to Piaget's cognitive. There are four components in Piaget's cognitive. The first one is schema, the second one is assimilation and accommodation, the third is organization, and the last one is equilibration. So the first is schema. Schema means general potential that exists in human beings to do things in a certain way. The first point is schema describes both mental and physical actions which involve in understanding and knowing. It is well known as the process of creating, refining, making changes, organizing, and managing. The second one is schema is a category of knowledge that helps us interpret and understand the world. In Piaget's view, schema includes both the category of knowledge and the process of acquiring that knowledge. Next, it starts with the formation of a simple scheme, then gradually moves to a more complex scheme. For example, a baby forms a scheme to reach an object. A child builds a scheme to categorize an object or scheme to recognize letters. So basically, schema is a cognitive or mental structure that allows an individual to manage and adapt to environmental conditions. We move to the assimilation and accommodation. The meaning of assimilation is the process of adaptation between a newly acquired object and an existing schema. The process of assimilation that takes place allows humans to follow a modification of the scheme as a result of newly acquired experience. For example, a child who has just seen an apple for the first time. Therefore, the child will use the holding scheme, the existing scheme, and at the same time they could feel it. So through it, the child will gain new knowledge about an apple. Assimilation happens all the time because human beings are constantly going through a variety of information and experiences. It also occurs when children incorporate new information into their existing schema. Next is accommodation. The meaning of accommodation is a process in which the cognitive structure changes. Accommodation works when the schema is unable to assimilate or to adapt a new environment that is not yet in child's cognitive acquisition. Jean Piaget considered this change as a learning process. For example, a 2-year-old child who is not shown a magnet will incorporate a new object into their scheme and create a conceptual adaptation to that magnet. So basically, accommodation occurs when the children adjust their schemas to fit new information and experiences. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone. My name is Cik Ani Sufia binti Sanu. I'm going to present about organizations. First, to make sense out of their work, said Piaget, children cognitively organize their experience. Organization in Piaget's theory is the grouping of isolated behaviors and tucked into a higher order system. Then, continual refinement of this organization is an inherent part of development. For example, a boy with only a vague idea about ball men also may have a vague idea about other types of clowns. After learning the difference between two situations, he relates this use organizing his knowledge. Okay, next is equilibration. How children shift from one stage of thought to the next. Equilibration is the force which drives the learning process, as we do not like to be frustrated and will seek to restore balance by mastering the new challenge. Accommodation. Next, once the new information is acquired, the process of assimilation with the new schema will continue until the next time we need to make an adjustment to it. For example, if a child believes that the amount of a liquid changes simply because the liquid is poured into a container with a different shape. For instance, from a container that is short and wide into a container that is tall and narrow. She might be puzzled by such issue as where the extra liquid came from and whether there is actually more liquid to drink. The child will eventually resolve this puzzle as her thinking becomes more advanced. Okay, that's all from me.
Good day everyone, I'm Georgina. Stage of cognitive development. There are 4 stages according to Piaget, which are sensory-motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. And today, I will explain about the sensory-motor stage. In sensory-motor stage, age is around birth until 2 years old. Major characteristics and developmental changes are the infant know the world through their movements and sensation. Next, the baby learn about the world through basic action such as sucking, grasping, looking, and also listening. Other than that, they also can separate beings from the people and objects around them. They realize that their action can cause things to happen in the world around them. Piaget divides the sensory-motor period into 6 different substages that involve specific developmental milestones. The first one is reflexive. Newborn will generally respond reflexively to touch or other stimulation. For example, during this substage, the infant understands the environment through inborn reflex such as sucking and looking. Second is primary circular reaction. These substages includes period between 1 and 4 months old. baby will begin to make specific movement for their own enjoyment. For example, behavior common to this stage include thumb sucking, kicking, and smiling. Third is secondary circular reaction. From 4 to 8 months of age, baby will begin to use objects to learn about the world. For example, a baby might drop a toy, shake a rattle, or bend objects together to make sounds. Next is coordinating secondary circular reaction. When child is between 8 months and a year old, they will begin to combine their learned abilities and reflexes to achieve goals. For example, they might crawl to pick up a toy across the room or push aside toys that blocking the specific one they want. At this point, baby is able to plan and coordinate action in response to thoughts. The next one is tertiary circular reaction. This substage occurs between 12 and 18 months old, which is the beginning of toddlerhood. At this point, child can explore their world and learn even more about it through motor coordination, planning, and experimentation. For example, they might take things apart in order to put them back together and perform certain activities again and again to see what happened each time. Lastly is symbolic thought. This final substage involves the development of symbolic thought, and it is a big leap. According to Piaget's theory, at 18 months old, children begin to understand that symbols can represent objects. This expands on the concept of object permanence, which is the knowledge that objects continue to exist even they can't be seen.
Hi, I am Rindiana binti Kadir, and now I will present about the pre-operational stage. Pre-operational stage. Pre-operational stage is the second Piagetian stage, and during this period, children begin to engage the symbolic play and learn to manipulate words. Also, the ability to make one thing like a word or an object stand for something other than itself, but still, it is egocentric intuitive rather than logical. Pre-operational contain two substages, which is the symbolic function and the intuitive thought. Let's start with the symbolic function. It occurs between 2 until 4 years age. The symbolic function substage is when children are able to understand, represent, remember, and picture objects in their mind without having the object in front of them. And this will lead the child mental to a new dimensions. I have a few examples here, like a child playing a toy can mentally picture and experience the toy even after it has been taken away, or he or she can no longer see it. Next, symbolic function emerge early in the pre-operational stage and express through different imitation, language, symbolic play, and mental imagery. And it's also called a semiotic function. Meanwhile, this pre-operational stage have an important limitation, which is the egocentrism. Egocentrism is the inability to take the perspective of another person. This type of thinking is common in young children in the pre-operational stage of cognitive development. The last one is the intuitive thought. Intuitive thought starting at about 4 years of age and lasting until 7 years of age. Intuitive thinking is about going with one's first instinct and reaching decision quickly based on automatic cognitive processes. And it's also reflective thinking, included the questioning of the first instinct and consideration of other possibilities, hence allowing for the counterintuitive decisions. Children begin to reasoning and excited to know the answers about all types of questions. And this substage intuitive is called by the Piaget because the children are pretty sure of their knowledge and they start to understand but unaware about how they know and what they know.
Hello, my name is Angel Poimin and I'll be continuing with concrete operational stage. So what is concrete operational stage? This is the stage where a child or an adolescent will start to think rationally and logically. And this stage usually will start at the age of 7 and last until the age of 11. So during this stage, children are characterized by the development of organized and rational thinking. This is a major turning point in the child's cognitive development because it marks the beginning of logical or operational thoughts. The child is now mature enough to use logical thought or operations as rules, but can only apply logic to physical subject. So during this stage, children gains the abilities of classification, conservation, decentration, reversibility, seriation, and sociocentricity. So for classification, children are able to sort things into categories and understand that there are subclasses within a group, like yellow and red flowers or animals that flies and animals that can swim. As for conservation, this is understanding that something can stay the same even though it looks different. For an example, a roll of plasticine are still the same amount even though it is squashed flat on the floor or rolled into a ball. As for decentration, this is an ability where a child are able to pay attention to multiple factors or situations rather than being focused to one single factors. For reversibility, this involves an understanding that actions can be reversed. And for seriation, it's about sorting a group of things into some sort of order, like from shortest to tallest and from thinnest to widest. As for the ability of sociocentricity, this is where the children are no longer fully focused on themselves and are egocentric. For an example, the children are able to understand that their parents has their own thoughts, feelings, and their own schedule. So there are some activities that can be done during the development of an adolescent or a child during the concrete operational stage. Some of them are learning manners at dinner table, story and tell, planning a party together, comparing candy bars, baking cookies, and building blocks and Legos. So that's all from me, and I'll be passing to my other group mates for the next slide.
Thanks to my friends, my name is Nurain Farzana binti Mat Zabidi. Today I want to explain about formal operational stage. This stage around 11 to 15 years of age is Piaget thought of a final cognitive stage. At this stage, individuals move beyond reasoning only about concrete experience and think in a more abstract, idealistic and logical ways. At the same time, that adolescents are thinking more abstractly and idealistically, they also are beginning to think more logically as a formal operational thinker. They start to thinking how to solve problems with their own way and systematically test solutions. These are among the three things adolescents will start thinking about. The first is logic. Piaget believed deductive reasoning become necessary during the formal operational stage. Deductive logic required the ability to use general principles to determine a particular outcomes. For example, science subjects that require logical thinking. And the second is abstract thinking. Instead of relying entirely on prior experience, adolescents begin to consider the possible outcome and consequence of action. This type of thinking is important in long-term planning. And the last one is problem solving. In the early stage, they use trial and error to solve problems. For during the formal operational stage, the above, to solve problems systematically in a logical and orderly manner. Adolescent in the formal operational stage of cognitive development can often quickly devise an organized approach to problem solving. That's all from me. Thank you.